Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, so today we're skipping the digital noise of the modern world and jumping straight into the past. We're reconstructing a single, ordinary day in the life of a pretty remarkable woman. Not a queen, no, not a famous politician, just a mother, a wife, and a really hard-working hotel proprietress back in 1872. We're going to dig into her daily routine to uncover the profound beauty, the sheer exhaustion, and honestly, the quiet dignity of 19th century life.
So, let's set the scene. We're in Middleton Township, Norfolk County, Ontario. It's October 1872. And let me tell you, the house is literally freezing. So cold that Mary Jane's breath is actually showing in the dim light. Outside, pitch black. The rooster has crowed, but everyone else, including her husband James, is dead to the world. He's totally wiped out from a long day of carpentry and balancing hotel accounts. So, Mary Jane slips out from under a quilt, one she actually pieced together herself, by the way, pulls on her wool stockings just to fight off the bite in the air, and well, her day begins.
Section 1. Before dawn, a quiet start.
Before the sun even thinks about coming up, she's already moving. This early quiet, that's her only alone time, and she uses it to fire up the massive machinery of her household. And the muscle memory required here is just astounding. Down in the freezing kitchen, she has to coax the banked stove coals back to life. Having been married for 10 years, she knows the exact rhythm of this house. I mean, she can literally do this half asleep. Kindling first, then the split wood James leaves by the door, and finally adjusting the damper just right. By the time that fire actually catches and she's got water heating and bread dough mixing, the sky is only just turning that deep blue-gray. And she's already bracing herself for wash day, which, if you're running a hotel with a large family, never actually ends.
Now let's talk about the number 5. That's the avalanche of life about to descend on her kitchen. 5 living, healthy children. First up is 10-year-old Sarah Elizabeth, already grabbing an apron to fetch eggs from a very grumpy hen. Then you've got 8-year-old Seymour, who is perpetually hungry naturally. 6-year-old Minnie comes down sleepy-eyed, followed by 4-year-old Georgiana, demanding to be carried. And finally, upstairs you hear the fussing of baby James Alexander, who isn't even 3 months old yet. So yeah, that quiet pre-dawn, officially over.
Section 2. Chores and Commerce. The Midday Hustle.
James grabs a quick bite of bread and cheese and heads out super early to fix a fence over at the Patterson farm. The older kids get sent off to the schoolhouse, and Mary Jane shifts into top gear for her relentless midday hustle. It is genuinely staggering to think about the sheer volume of stuff she does all at once. She's stringing apples with Minnie for winter drying. She's sorting through the root cellar potatoes, using hands that are totally chapped from the cold and years of labor, just picking out the rotting ones. And right next to her, in a basket, baby James Alexander needs soothing and nursing. You see, motherhood taught Mary Jane really early on that an interruption isn't an obstacle. It's her constant companion. She basically never expects to finish a single task in one sitting.
Oh, and just to add to the chaos, remember, this isn't just a home. It's a functioning hotel. Around midday, a traveling cloth merchant shows up wanting to argue a billing discrepancy. So picture this. Mary Jane has a baby literally balanced on her hip while she calmly reviews the hotel ledger at the kitchen table. She catches the mistake. He was accidentally charged for a second night of horse stabling, fixes the error, and wishes him safe travels. She just seamlessly bounces between mother, cook, housekeeper, and hotel proprietress without missing a single beat. It's wild.
Then comes a super quick midday meal. Eaten standing up, of course, because Georgiana somehow got into the flour barrel and needs to be scrubbed down. Afterwards, Mary Jane finally gets to sit down by the window where the light is hitting just right. She grabs this mending basket that is just never empty and starts patching up Seymour's trousers yet again. And while she's sewing, her mind wanders to the number 10. 10 years. That's a full decade of steady, devoted marriage to James.
It's this rare, quiet little pocket of the afternoon, and she takes a moment just to feel grateful. She thinks about James, how incredibly hard he works, but how steady and devoted he is to the family. She thinks back on some property troubles the hotel faced the year before, and how they managed to weather that storm together. And she thinks about her own mother, Eliza. She starts mentally drafting a letter, figuring out how to describe how much the kids have grown and how little James Alexander is already trying to roll over. It's just a nice, brief mental escape before, boom, the older kids burst back through the door from the schoolhouse.
Section 3. Evening Gathering. The Family Anchor.
Late afternoon brings that fading autumn light, and James finally gets back, tired but satisfied from his carpentry. The whole sensory vibe of the house completely flips. The freezing kitchen from this morning is now incredibly warm and smells amazing. Supper is really the anchor of their day. They all sit down to a big simmering pot of ham and beans, the fresh bread she made that morning, and summer preserves. And the table is just alive with this ordinary magic. Seymour is dramatically acting out a story about the Hendersons' loose cow. Minnie is proudly showing her dad her practice letters. James brings up a church social, and Mary Jane instantly volunteers to work with Sarah Elizabeth on a quilt to raffle for the building fund. This totally unremarkable everyday conversation, that's the foundation of their family. As the evening winds down, Mary Jane is pushing through those final chores with that deep, heavy exhaustion you only get from a full day of manual labor. They do tin tub baths right by the warm stove for the little ones. Seymour practices reading aloud from the Bible while James patiently corrects his pronunciation. And then finally, all 5 children are tucked into bed. The house settles into that very specific, heavy kind of quiet that you only ever hear after a completely chaotic day finally goes to sleep.
Section 4. A quiet rest, end of the day.
The day is pretty much done. That frantic, sunlit energy turns into flickering, intimate lamplight in the kitchen, where Mary Jane and James finally get a second to themselves. She pours them both a small cup of tea and picks up her mending one last time while James reviews the hotel ledgers. She mentions how capable young Sarah Elizabeth is getting. Maybe she could even start managing supper soon. James doesn't even look up from his numbers, but he just says, "She's a good girl, takes after her mother." It's such a sweet, fleeting little compliment. Mary Jane just smiles to herself and threads her needle.
This quiet, nighttime intimacy is such a huge contrast to the absolute chaos of raising 5 kids and running a business during the day. Outside, the October wind is rattling bare branches against the house, but inside, they're just sitting in comfortable silence. They chat a bit about helping their neighbors, the Pattersons, with the upcoming harvest. It is a life totally built on work and rest, chaos and calm, perfectly balanced. Eventually, they bank the fire, check on every sleeping child, and head to sleep, completely satisfied with a day well spent.
Section 5. The Epilogue. A Sudden End.
Okay, so we've just walked through 24 hours of Mary Jane's life. We felt those freezing floors, smelled the fresh bread, heard the kids laughing. But history, unfortunately, has a way of flipping our perspective in an instant. Looking at this timeline, it's a beautiful marathon. From building a fire in the pitch-black morning, managing a hotel, dealing with harvest chores, right through to a warm family supper and quiet partnership at night. It's a masterpiece of just ordinary, daily devotion. Mary Jane Kemp closed her eyes on that October night in 1872, feeling that deep, quiet contentment of a life well lived, totally ready for whatever tomorrow would bring.
But here is the truly heartbreaking reality. Mary Jane had absolutely no way of knowing what was waiting for her just around the corner. Less than 2 years from this beautifully ordinary October day, a sudden fever would sweep through and abruptly end her life. She would pass away at the shockingly young age of just 33.
It really casts a completely different light on everything we just saw, doesn't it? Those endless wash days, the mending, the chaotic dinners, they weren't just chores. They were the precious, fleeting moments of a life that burned so brightly and ended way too soon. It kind of forces us to look at our own lives, you know? How does knowing the fragility of Mary Jane's future change the way we view the ordinary, exhausting beauty of our own daily routines? I'll leave you to think about that. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next that.